Mm. And when you think about these potential, whatever they are, whatever these creatures are, if we did find out that they are some sort of a hominid, how much credence do you give to the theory that there's like the possibility that these UFOs, UAPs, whatever it is a break-off civilization from a very, very long time ago that's very different from us, just same way we're very different from chimpanzees,
Right.
which we coexist with?
Right. I have no problem conjecturing that. Did you ever see the Netflix show Chimp Empire?
Yes.
Amazing, right?
Amazing.
20 million years of separation, and it looked like fucking faculty meeting. With people like looking at each other and planning and plotting, board meeting, and so we shared all of those interactions from 20 million years ago. Mm-hmm. So how much further back would you have to go to have something like what that is? I mean, it's clearly not recent.
And also, if you think about what we are in comparison to chimps, we're so fragile, we're frail, we're easily injured, well, if you think of something that's far more technologically advanced than us, it would be even more frail. It would be even more petite. It would have almost no muscle at all. It would look, weirdly enough, like the Greys from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, that's what it would look like. If it was a hominid that's whatever we are, and it went way past that.
Right. Yeah, no, technology gives evolution the excuse to no longer make or allow for you to be
robust.
Robust. Thank you. That was the word I'm looking for.
And also, why do you need opposable thumbs?
Yeah.
Right? These things don't even have opposable thumbs.
That was what's weird about it.
Right.
It's like, how do you interact with your environment? They look more like sloths than they do.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, at least their hands do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I find it...
Well, if everything's done with AI and automation and your interface is purely neurological, like so you have some sort of a human or a creature neuro interface with technology, and you just use fingers to like lay them on electronics so that you can sync up with it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why are you picking things up, bro? You don't have to pick things up anymore. Yeah. So what I want to bring it back to evidence. You said that you've seen evidence. Like, what kind of evidence have you seen?
I have seen photos. I have seen...
what have you seen photos of?
So I was in a skiff, and I can't discuss all that was in a skiff, but what I can tell you is based on the photos that I've seen, I'm very confident that there's things out there that have not been created by mankind.
It seems crazy that people have access to information that shows that there's something outside of us that is more intelligent, at least more capable than we are, and they hide it from everybody else.
What I can tell you is that when you have thousands upon thousands of people around the planet throughout time that have reported something,
right?
To say that those people are crazy, to say that, the whole concept of even just asking the question that you might not necessarily be psychologically sound, that in itself, that's a disinformation campaign to get people to shut up about it. And that's a problem. We know that the U.S. government has not exactly been clean, and a lot of what they've done with the American people, specifically to the topic of UFOs.
Which makes you think that it's probably because there's something there. If you think about the motivation they had with Project Blue Book, when J. Allen Hynek was running Project Blue Book, this specific intention was to discredit all stories.
And he ended up ultimately, though, after all of his investigations, becoming someone that was like, I think there's something here. But that's true. By the way, a lot of people might not necessarily go onto Google and look up that information, but you can actually look up the declassified reports from Project Blue Book. What's also interesting, though, is when we're talking about tech, right, the ability for this tech, being that it exists, to change dependence for entire governments on things like fossil fuel, et cetera. It's look, I think everyone has a moral obligation to do what they think is right, okay? And so if you're in a position of power and you see something wrong and you're not addressing it, I think, this in itself, getting the truth out there for people to decide for themselves. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you in our investigations and what we are pushing for in regards to transparency. I would like to see the federal government roll out some of the stuff that we've been given access to, because I think that information belongs in the hands of the American people. And it's not even just the U.S. government. I mean, there's other countries around the world that have done certain things like this. Now, look, I've had a lot of crazy people show up at my office and say, I've heard it all. Yeah, I've been to Mars. I have a chip in my brain, all this stuff.
They all have chips.
We had this one guy that showed up that was like trying to give us a USB. He's like, put this in your computer. They're going to kill me for this. And like runs away. And I'm like, I'm not putting that in my computer. But based on our investigations, what I will tell you is, there's been 2 members of Congress that are actually helping to lead out these investigations with me. And the reason I say that is because up until last Congress, if you even said the word UAP or UFO, people actually told us that if we went forward with these investigations that we were going to ruin our political careers. And so, we're in the mindset of, well, like, why wouldn't we ask these questions? And also, too, if no one wants to touch it, like, there has to be something here, right?
Right.
And so in these investigations, I mean, the amount of people that will come up to us, very successful people, to multiple members of Congress that believe the same thing, it's definitely changed in regards to the stigma that used to exist about disclosure and all this. And so what we're trying to do currently there's a big documentary that was filmed about a year and a half ago, and we're trying to get a screening up on Capitol Hill. But look, I think a lot of people say, well, this is a distraction from everything else happening in the country right now. And all I'm simply trying to say is it's not a distraction. The people that are kind of helping to divulge all this information, you have an intelligence community, Tulsi Gabbard, Radcliffe, Kash Patel. They have been truly, in regards to our other investigations, extremely transparent and wanting to get this information out. But it doesn't mean that within these intelligence communities there isn't pushback. And so part of the reason why the task force was formed pertaining to things like UAP, pertaining to things like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, pertaining to things like the JFK, MLK, and RFK investigations is because even though we don't hold declassification authority, what we're trying to do is push these agencies and be, if you will, the pit bull and the attack dog on trying to get this information released. And to a lot of these agencies' credits, they've been extremely transparent, and we have gotten wins specifically on the JFK stuff, and we're still looking to declassify and ask specifically on the UAP topic.
What would be the rationale for keeping a photograph of a known absolute not of this world craft from the American people or from the world? Why would anybody think that would be the smart thing to do, is to limit the access of that information to a very small amount of people?
I think that part of the fear is that you have advisors that think that, the American people or humanity might not be able to handle it. There's this protective complex. But then also, too, I think when you are talking about these things, for a lot of people, I think that it kind of can rock your world a little bit in regards to where you stand in a faith perspective. And then also, too, an aspect of, well, how do you even begin to explain it? And all I'm going to say is, look, and we can go into some of the books that were removed from what we know as the modern day Bible, but I read through the book of Enoch multiple times. And I'm not saying that these things are angels. Okay, that's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that depending on where you are in regards to your whole perspective on whether or not God exists, like I believe in God, I'm a Christian. There has to have been, and there's admissions that there was other creations that God made, but that we were the most prized creation. And so I think that this can open up a bigger
so many
topic.
things you have to take into consideration. One of them is we don't have a straight linear line from the moment that we're born to the moment that we exist in currently. The reason being is that we go to sleep every night.
Right.
It's a weird thing. We shut off every night, and we wake up intermittently, and you go back to bed. Maybe you have to pee. Maybe you're thirsty. You go back to bed, and then you wake up again. But when you wake up, you are just waking up. Like when I woke up this morning, I don't know if this is the life I've always lived.
Right.
I'm assuming it is because I have all these detailed memories of the past. I see my dog. He reacts the exact same way he always does. I see my wife. I see my kids. I see my house. It's the same house that I remember. But I'm not sure. I just woke up.
Right.
I'm a little foggy already.
it just
right?
exists in your memory. At
it
that
just
point.
exists in your
Right.
memory.
And so
this might be the first day of my life.
Right. If suppose that you can implant false memories, right?
Right.
So this was a popular topic for Philip K. Dick, right?
Yes.
Movies like Total Recall, and even in Blade Runner. Right? You know, I interviewed his wife while I was researching, my book.
He was a wild boy.
He was an interesting guy, right?
Yeah.
And he said some interesting things. In fact, all the way back in 1977 in Metz, France, at a sci-fi convention, he said, there's a pretty famous quote. He said, "We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is if some variable is changed, some alteration occurs in our reality." Right? And that's become kind of a famous quote in the simulation world. But if you listen to the rest of the quote, he says, well, we would basically rerun the same events and we would change some variables, right? And we would have a sense of deja vu, like maybe we've already done this, right? Maybe I've, talked to you before,
right,
in a different run of the simulation, right? And this idea, like after I wrote my first book on this topic, the simulation hypothesis, this idea wouldn't leave me that, well, if you can run one simulation, you can certainly run it multiple times. In fact, that's what we would do. Right? If we were running a simulation of the weather, we wouldn't just run it once. We would run it multiple times. And if we were doing a simulation of whatever, right, pandemic, anything, name it, we would change the variables and we would go forward. And so, when I interviewed Tessa, Philip K. Dick's last wife, she said that he came to believe this was really happening, right? That someone was altering with our reality and they would change a few variables and rerun the simulation forward. So now we're getting pretty deep in the rabbit hole. So this is the topic of my second book, which is called The Simulated Multiverse. This idea that each of these timelines could be like a different run of the simulation itself. So that gets a little weird at that point, right? Because now we're saying that time isn't the same thing, right, that we think it is. So with the simulation hypothesis, we're saying that space doesn't really exist. It basically gets rendered for us like a video game. And then with this second idea, we're saying that time doesn't really exist because what you remember could have been either implanted memories or it could be a specific run of the simulation, right? So if you run it again, maybe things are slightly different the second time you run it. So Philip K. Dick came to believe that his novel, The Man in the High Castle, which was turned into a pretty cool series. I don't know if you've seen it. It was on Amazon a few years ago. But in that, in the novel and in the series, Germany and Japan won World War II. And so you see in America that's been divided. Like the East Coast is run by the Germans, the West Coast is run by the Japanese, and you see this kind of fascist type world. And so, he later came to believe that this actually happened, and somehow the simulators reran it again, and the current timeline is one that was allowed to go forward, like, further forward than where that one might have ended. And so he says that at some point, all these memories came flooding back to him of this other timeline. He called it, he used this Greek word, it's called an anamnesis, which means a loss of forgetfulness, right? So he said, we might be able to remember these other runs of the simulation.
Best.
I love Daryl too.
Okay, cool.
About Epstein, he met him.
Dude, what the fuck? What did he say it was like?
He said he had a girl on his lap while they talked. The girl was like 21 years old. And I think he said she was Asian, I don't remember. But he said she was really beautiful. And she was sitting on his lap, and he was bouncing her up and down while they were talking. So they're talking about finance, and her boobs are juggling. So he goes, she wasn't underage or anything. She was a woman, but she was sitting on his lap, and he was bouncing her around, and her boobs were bouncing in his face while they're trying to concentrate on whatever the fuck they're talking
Some
about.
David Lynch shit right there, man. That's some David Lynch shit.
Yeah.
Just jiggling boobs in front of you, like, wow. That is so fucked up.
And Eric said, like, right away, his vibe was that this guy was a construct. Because Eric is all like,
what do you mean
daggers.
construct? What do you mean construct?
Like a fucking agent.
Oh, right.
He was like, this guy does not come off as a financial expert
right
at all.
Right.
And Weinstein is an economist.
Dude, it's just...
Well, he's a mathematician, right? He worked for Peter Thiel. He was just... Can you give me some of that coffee, brother?
Yeah, sure. Peter Thiel.
I think he was a math teacher.
Math teacher.
It's my Palantir hat.
And then he became whatever he became.
Well, he's not a dumb dude at all. And if he thinks the guy was fake, like right away, that's his instinct. Like initially, I think the problem is a lot of those guys wanted him to be real because what fun. You get to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody thinks it was kids. And there probably was a lot of that because
Definitely.
I don't know what the actual accusations have been because the wildest thing about the Ghislaine trial is like she went to jail for trafficking to who knows who. The fact that you could just put her in jail and who'd you traffic to? Like none of that gets out in the trial at all? That's crazy. And they do it right in front of your face.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
So you don't know we hear it was underage girls. We know that there was some of them were underage for sure. And then we also know that some of them were not underage. They were young women. And you know, they all have one of them wound up dying recently. One of them that's been a whistleblower died.
Yeah.
You imagine you're a young girl and you're fucking broke and then you meet that guy and he invites you to go on a fucking island somewhere or party somewhere and you're hanging out with all these fucking creeps and then years later when all it starts coming out what happened, you go public and you don't have any money. You don't have any money and you got these fucking billionaire sharks who want to take you out because you sucked their dick 30 years ago or whatever it was. Yeah. That's got to be terrifying. Lawmaker claimed the files included one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control.
Fuck.
Whoa.
Fuck. Yeah, man. See, this right here. This is scary shit.
Because this is how communism gets started.
This
is when they attack, they realize this is indefensible, and it gets to the point where people are like, maybe Mom Donnie's right.
Dude, I mean, but that's one thing that's beautiful about humans is that all of us agree, don't fuck kids.
Don't fuck kids.
That's a beautiful thing. If you want to find the thing that that connects all of us, it's we really want to keep our kids safe. We love our children. And so if, as it turns out, and dude, you guys, if you want to have a dark few days, listen to Martyr Maid's episode on the Epstein files. It's not what he just points to other times the state has protected organized sex trafficking rings. This isn't the first time this shit has happened. And so
that's what's crazy.
That's the scary part. If all of us realize that we have been funding and voting for vampires, sex vampires, essentially.
Do you remember the DC Madam story?
Is that the one that Charlie Sheen? No, that was
no. That was L.A.
Okay.
That was the lady who went to jail.
I don't really remember it.
The DC Madam story was this lady got busted, and she had a book filled with high-profile individuals from Washington that she and her ladies were servicing. Right. And then she committed suicide.
Well, it's a hard job. She probably was depressed.
Yeah.
DC's winters are tough.
I bet those people are freaks. I bet they get down.
Well,
I bet they get down. I bet when they're done with all that law-making bullshit, at the end of the day, a lot of them are young. A lot of them are just in it they can't believe they're hanging out at the real deal. They're really a congressperson.
Fuck yeah.
They're really a staffer.
Listen, I don't mind. I want my politicians to fuck. I don't want them to be sexless fucking androids up there.
They just want war.
Just don't fuck kids.
Yeah.
But
we need to know what actually happened, because maybe some of these guys just got prostitutes on that island. Maybe, who knows what levels he was doing this at. There was probably a bunch of people that weren't depraved, but he wanted dirt on them, right? And then there's people that are depraved. Like you've got probably multiple layers to what he was doing.
Okay, but here's I mean, I think it's safe to say, and it's not even conspiratorial, the current system of how we elect our leaders is based on money. You need donors, right?
100%.
So that is a kind of legal bribery. You give enough money to this politician or that politician, and it's not like you own them, but they know you gave them all this money, and they know they want to run again. They also know that you've got your own constituents, and you have a lot of control, network of bots that you could easily unleash on the internet. And so I think it's a safe bet that it's highly likely that it's donors who are on that list and who are compromised for real, who are exerting massive amounts of pressure on the federal government to not release those fucking files. But and it could be that it's an existential threat. It could be that it would cause so much tumult that it could lead to an actual uprising. It could lead to like a bunch of us with torches standing around the fucking castle, ready to burn the vampire out. And I think that must be it, because if I'm a career politician, dude, I don't want to vote against releasing something that is if there are monsters among us, we need to know. Dude, in my neighborhood, we got a scary ass fucking letter. Sex offender. If you're just a basic bitch sex offender and you move anywhere in Texas, mass mail goes out with your picture on it and your fucking address. You know what I mean? So why is it that there are these very same people who are working right now, who are out there, nobody knows, who are actual predatory pedophiles, and our government is protecting them?
That's the other terrifying thing about the open border. In the name of compassion and, not stopping people from coming into the country, one thing that they think was a lot of it was sex trafficking kids.
Oh, yeah.
Kids.
Fucked up.
Yeah. That there's truly evil people in the world, that want a child to do terrible things, and they'll pay a lot of money to get one.
Dude, this is why I go to Catholic Mass now.
If you've never encountered real evil, you wouldn't believe that would be possible. But then when you find out the numbers of kids that went missing,
dude,
that came across the border, the number of kids where they have no trace of them, they have no idea where they went. We're talking thousands and thousands of kids. Now, I'm not saying they all got sex trafficked, but I bet some of them did.
Listen, man, it's evil.
And if it's a person where there's no record of them, no one's going to know they're missing. There's probably some fucking dark, twisted motherfuckers that would give you a lot of Bitcoin for something like that.